Less than 3 weeks away from learning who will make out the class of 2024 in Cooperstown. Keith Costas helping us out by shining the spotlight on some first-time Hall of Fame eligible players. This group retiring 5 years ago. We have talked a lot about Joe Mauer, a likely first ballot candidate. We've talked a lot about Adrian Beltre the same way, but there are other players, and Keith is helping us weed through this with ample time given to everybody. Keith, take it away.
Yep, guys, same drills the last couple days. Some of these guys obviously aren't going to have a real chance to get in the Hall of Fame, but an honor to be on the ballot nonetheless. So we'll celebrate their careers here, and we'll do Jose Bautista and Adrian Gonzalez today. Now, you think about Bautista. Obviously, we know he went nuts with the Blue Jays, but look at all of these different organizations he was with before he actually made his way to Toronto. This is his first 8 professional seasons here. 5 different organizations, 6 stops if you count 2 stops with the Pirates, his original team that eventually reacquired him before. Everyone remembers Robinson Diaz, right? The player to be named later that was sent to Pittsburgh in exchange for Jose Bautista. That's how he ended up in Toronto. And I know that WAR isn't the be-all, end-all. I'd probably pick maybe another name like Joe Carter or Delgado to be the face of the franchise. But by the numbers, he's at least in the conversation for the most productive player in the history of the franchise. You look at that WAR that he put up, the highest number by any Blue Jay ever. You really think about Bautista, it was all consolidated from 2010 to 2015, that 6-year run. You look at his ranks across the majors. First in home runs, despite, you see that note on the bottom, guys, he missed 15% of the team's games, almost a full season's worth of missed games in that stretch. Did not prevent him from topping that leaderboard of home run hitters over that 6-year stretch. But guys, what it really comes down to, you can talk about 6 years, it's really 2 years. Those first 2 years when he went off and led the majors in home runs, 97 homers, only 2 players in the history of the game have hit 300-plus homers and had a higher number of them consolidated into 1 2-season stretch. Fielder's a good comp. Greenberg a little different because his career was interrupted by World War II. But when it comes down to it, Jose Bautista, obviously a dominant player at his peak, just too short of a peak for a real Hall of Fame case, guys.
True. And when we showed that the full screen of the legends, so to speak, of the Blue Jays, the first thing that popped out to me was they really are the international team. You know, no wonder they were so disappointed about Ohtani.
Dude, look at this board.
That's what I'm saying.
Look at this board, man. I mean, you're talking about, Jesse Barfield was on that great run of players. Carlos Delgado still the most unheralded great slugger, I think, of his generation, mid to late 90s. But Joey Bat's highest win above replacement in Blue Jays franchise.
I mean, the bat flip was the moment you think about, right? And then the punch. Those are the 2 things you think about.
Yeah, I honestly don't think about the punch. This was the moment.
I think about the punch.
I remember this.
Too.
You were doing this game.
Yeah, I was.
And watching this and then watching the camera shake because the energy in that place was manic.
It was incredible. What a moment. I'll never forget it.
They couldn't even hold a straight shot on the telecast because the place was going bonkers.
It was amazing.
That's good stuff.
What a moment.
Yeah, let's move on. These are 2 interesting players here, Keith.
Yep, and Egon, I mean, like I said earlier, guys, I don't think any of these guys we're discussing this week have a real case. But Adrian Gonzalez, for me, is firmly in that 2%. If 1% is the Hall of Famers, he is right there in that next tier very firmly. Take a look at his season averages. We're going to take out, he started with 2 seasons with the Rangers. He finished with a partial season with the Mets. Ignore that stuff. This is really the meat of his career, his time with the Padres, Red Sox, and Dodgers. One of the most durable players in the game. He led the majors in games played over that span, a guy who drove in 100-plus runs every single year. And guys, you think about number 1 picks that have gone on to have really productive careers, again, going to WAR is just a starting point. It's a pretty good list that he's looking up at. This is essentially 4 Hall of Famers, or soon-to-be Hall of Famers, plus A-Rod. Everybody on this case had everybody on this board rather had a Hall of Fame caliber career that checked in ahead of Egon. Now, awards aren't the be-all, end-all, guys, but I thought it's just a jumping-off point here. Sluggers and Gold Gloves at first base. And I think what this speaks to maybe is that it's a position where you really have to slug your way into the Hall of Fame. The two-way first baseman does not get a lot of run in terms of all-time grades. I mean, Matty, you just talked about Delgado. He slugged more than any of these guys and didn't find his way to Cooperstown. So I think it's a position where offense really has to come first. This last one, H, I thought you'd like this. A guy that led the league in walks and hits, separate seasons here we're talking about.
Wow.
It's only 3 guys in the history of the game. So you talk about somebody who is patient enough to take his walks. What's the argument against those guys sometimes? Well, they're not ready to swing the bat, not ready to drive in runs. This guy led the league in walks when he was a home run hitter with the Padres. He goes to Boston, where the ballpark maybe fits his swing a little bit better, cranks out 213 hits using that monster. Then he goes to L.A. You look at that note on the bottom. He also had a season where he led the majors in RBI. He goes to a star-studded lineup with the Dodgers and leads the league in RBI. So a guy who is capable and willing to take different approaches based on the lineup and the ballpark he was hitting in. Just a really good hitter.
Congestion?
I'm feeling better.
I can make an argument for him to be a Hall of Famer. I really can. I think you got to look at the generation he played in. His availability, Keith, was huge. This guy was a stud.
Well,
he really was.
And again, like extolling the virtues of Adrian Gonzalez, not only was he a gifted defensive player, he was a guy that slugged, Keith, and you didn't yield any batting average because he still hit for average, too. I mean, he was at the top of his craft for a long time. Is he going to get into the Hall of Fame? I don't think so, but like Harold said, I think you could make a pretty good case.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. You look at this list of comparables for both players here, and like I said, there's really not a strong case. It's a little bit stronger for Egon because he was more durable, played a little bit longer, but Will Clark to me is a guy who's a pretty decent comp for Adrian Gonzalez. I don't know if I put Egon quite on that level, but pretty comparable careers when you think about it. Will Clark had some moderate support but fell off after 1 year. So great careers for both of these guys. They're not going to get to Cooperstown, but an honor to be on the ballot nonetheless.
Wait a minute. I want to stick on this for a second. So the numbers here are
how many Hall of Fame votes they received.
In their first year of eligibility?
In the 2 highlighted cases, they had 2 years on the ballot. Everybody else was off after 1 year.
Man, Freddie Lynn lasted only 2 years, and Will Clark fell off after a year. That's what we're talking about. Because back then, when those guys were first-year eligible players, there wasn't the kind of national conversation, there wasn't social media, there wasn't MLB Network, there wasn't the kind of dialogue that we're able to give players now to keep them on the ballots a little bit longer.
I mean, Freddie Lynn, if he had a machine like the network pumping out what he did in his career, he'd be in Cooperstown.
That's one worth revisiting. I mean, this is really good stuff, Keith. Awesome.
Dewey Evans is another guy.
Awesome boards, good stuff. I mean,
Thanks,
we could go down the rabbit hole of guys we'd love to give additional run to
that
have fallen off the ballot. We'd do a whole show on that.
Should do a pre-MLB Network post.
I wish we could have done that when Vita Blue was still alive, man. That's my guy.